Today we're going to learn a little bit about fashion hues, working with oil-based translucent stains, create this beautiful fruit picture. Okay, to start with, when working with oil-based translucent stains, it's very important to seal your bisque. Unsealed bisque works the same way as unsealed wood. By that I mean if you spill grape juice on unsealed wood, you're going to have purple wood. Well, base coat, we're going to start out by sealing the bisque. Sealing the bisque is done in a two-coat process. We're going to start out first with our cream base coat. And we'll follow up with a smooth, even application of the white base coat. It's very important to use two coats because in the decorating process, we will be wiping that color, and you wouldn't want to wipe away your base coat if you didn't have it on thick enough. You'll always want to start with the bottom. This is the case in most mediums that you work with. You'll want to start at the bottom, that way you don't paint yourself into the proverbial corner. Okay, another reason we do a two-coat base coat system is the fact that if you hit it twice, you're more likely to cover the whole item and not leave any unsealed sections. Also, the base coat may shrink a bit as it dries. You'll sometimes find that an area you thought might have been covered the first coat didn't quite cover the first time. By using the cream as your first base coat, you're able to see where you've been and see where you're going. You've got your cream down. As you can see, it's very easy to differentiate from where my bisque has been sealed and where it has not. You'll want to be very smooth in your application. You don't want to leave brushstroke marks. As you see, I like to use a Taklon, nice and soft, yet firm enough to spread my base coat evenly without puddling. Okay, once you've given your first base coat of cream, C128 cream, a chance to dry thoroughly, you'll follow up with a second coat, and that's C104 white base coat. You can see now the benefit of doing the first base coat in cream. It really helps you to identify where you've been and where you're going. Any areas that are unsealed will certainly pop out at this time. Again, we will start at the bottom. Always paint your piece at the bottom first, and that way it has a chance to dry before you need to set it down, because once we get up to the top portion of the piece, we'll need a dry area to put it, and that's where the bottom being dry comes in. You're going to want to make sure to be nice and smooth with your application of the base coat, especially on the areas that have a smooth surface. The textured surface, of course, will pick up the texture of the color, but the surfaces, for instance, in this case, the apple and the pear have very smooth surfaces. So you want to be very conscious of the direction that you're placing the base coat, because once it's dry, you've created a new surface. That's part of the reason for base coating, is of course sealing the surface. Be sure nice and even. Continue to paint the base coat on, covering the entire area of cream until the entire surface has been sealed with base coat, 2 coats of base coat. The reasons that we use a 2-coat system: the color can possibly shrink in application, and in doing so it could leave areas of bisque exposed. Secondly, of course, just the fact that I'm doing it twice is going to increase my chances of making sure the entire surface of bisque is sealed. When working with the Fashion Hues translucent stains, the color is going to grab any unsealed bisque. You won't have control over being able to erase the color. So you'll want to set this down now. Just keep working it. You'll want to, once you have the piece completely sealed, you'll want to change your direction of light so that you can see under and in between sections that may have been shadowed the first time you went over the piece. This is all just making sure that your piece is completely sealed. It's just very important, because unsealed bisque will work the same way as unsealed wood. It takes on the first thing that is put on it. If you spill grape juice on unsealed wood, you will have purple wood. And in our case, working with Fashion Hues, if you have an area of unsealed bisque, it will absorb the first color that goes on it, and that in this case is going to be a brown, a beautiful S18 brown that will antique the entire piece with. And you won't want exposed bisque. It'll definitely be great redoing that. Okay, well, it's upside down. I'm going to check through, make sure there's no drips, no fingerprints. A fingerprint will create a new texture, and it'll be in a place that you don't want it. So, okay. Able to set it down and actually cover the remainder. You'll actually want to pull your color into an edge. Always just real light application, pull it in from the outside edge. The reason we're doing this, if we were to go out, it would possibly leave a run of color, and we don't want that to happen. I have placed inside of this a fun art glaze called Harvest Leaf. You could do it in a clear glaze. You could actually stain it in the brown. It's not really going to be considered a functional piece, just primarily decorative. Okay, allow piece to dry. Okay, once your base coating has completely dried, we're going to do a little test that just absolutely reassures us that the entire piece has been covered. You don't have to do this step, but it really pays off in the end in the quality of your work, because if you've missed any pieces whatsoever, it will show at this point if you've left any bits fixed. But usually that's a real easy process. I just put my antiquing solution, make a little foil cup for it. That way I can keep it separate from everything. I don't have to worry about it getting into my paint, so I don't put it on my palette so it doesn't get into my paint or anything. I just make a little foil cup with it. Now, again, starting at the bottom, as I always do, I'm going to spread the solvent carefully, evenly over the entire piece. A little bit goes a very, very long way. In the event that I have missed any section, that I didn't cover the bisque completely anywhere, it will show, it will be discolored. When I say discolored, it's just a little tint different from the base coat. It will stand out. You'll know what I mean. I should have strategically left a section not covered so that I could show you the difference, but I didn't. Maybe we'll find one yet. In the event that you find a section that's not been sealed with the base coat, simply dry it off thoroughly and completely. The solvent is oil-based and the base coats are water-based, so you don't want them to mix. Well, they won't mix and it'll leave an ugly slick spot if you were to try to touch up your base coat to the piece. But what you would do is you would completely dry the section off, reapply your base coat, and let it dry. Okay? You can at this point wipe the solvent from the piece once you are certain that the entire surface has been properly sealed. Okay, now that the piece has been thoroughly base coated, sealed, and checked, we dried off the antiquing solution that we used to test it with, and now we're ready to proceed with decorating. I choose to antique my piece with our S18 brown. That would be the most common color if you choose to antique first. The most common color to use. I placed a fair amount of my S18 brown in the center, and then I need a bit of blending media that will aid in the spreading of the brown. Not only does it aid in the spreading, it helps to condition the piece. As time goes on, your paint can and will change consistencies, and that's perfectly fine. You just learn how to work with it as it ages. It lasts so long that you'll find sometimes a color, when you first opened it, was very, very fluid and liquidy, and you wouldn't have used too much of it. Okay, now that the piece has been thoroughly sealed and base coated, I am antiquing with my S18 brown. I'll use a tiny bit of blending media. I place a tiny bit of blending media in the center because my color has thickened through the years, actually. Gosh, the color really lasts a long time. A little goes a long, long way. As you see, I'm using a Royal brush, actually, one of the soft grip series. It's SG 750, which is an ox hair. Some call it a glaze brush, but I like the firmness in the bristle. It's firm yet smooth in applying the antiquing. Now, oftentimes you'll have an instructor tell you that you're only supposed to antique a small section at a time. One of the fabulous things about working with the blending media is that it keeps the paint open for a good long while. So I'll teach you the rules, but I'll also let you know the rules that you can kind of work around. So we're going to work basically half of the piece at a time. Move it along, make it happen. I want to make sure and spread all my color as it down into and cover all the white areas. Okay, now if you don't have enough blending media in your paint, it's going to be real thick and stick just like this. It'll be real dark, and when you go to wipe it back, you'll have to scrub at it to wipe it back, and that will be an indication that you don't have enough blending media. If you ever run into that situation, you just come back in, pick up a little bit of blending media, use that section as your palette because you've got a lot of paint there. I'm just going to keep spreading. Now once my half is covered with the paint, now I'd spread it way out. A little bit of this goes a long, long way. And really, the less you put on, is the less that you have to worry about taking off. So when removing your antiquing, I'm working with shop towels that I pick mine up at Walmart or any auto parts store. When you're working on your wiping your antiquing back, you're going to want to pat. You're going to hear this a lot now. We pat, which is basically setting the color and absorbing the blending media. It's going to give you a nice patting it. Once you finish patting, you're going to come back and smoothly wipe back your color. Wipe back your antiquing color. It's okay to use the soiled section. Actually, as it gets more and more color on it, it works kind of like a mop to a certain degree, in that a wet mop will do a much smoother job than a dry mop will. A dry mop just pushes stuff around. Well, this same theory kind of holds true with working with the translucent colors. Getting your wipe that cloth nice and soiled will help the process along while you're wiping your color back. Keep it nice and smooth. Some of the materials you could use for your wipe back material, old t-shirt material is absolutely perfect. Shop towel is my favorite. I've been working with this product 20 years. I've gone through all the family's old t-shirts, so I can move on to the shop towels. You want something that's soft, absorbent, and lint free. Now I've got this all wiped back evenly. You'll see it's white back even. We'll go back and do a little more work on the white back in just a few minutes. Now once you've finished antiquing and the piece is relatively evenly antiqued, there may be areas of the piece that you'd like to have even lighter yet. For this, we use our antiquing solution. you'll quarter up one of your shop towels. Just fold it in quarters. Now you want to work the product into your cloth. You don't want it too wet, it will strip all the paint all the way off. I know on this piece that my lemon is going to be worked with a lighter color. Each time we apply a color, we erase or replace the color that's beneath it. That you'll hear that a lot and feel that a lot with what we do. We do things in layers as opposed to old-fashioned paint and antique where you go straight on. Forget that one. Anyway, I'm highlighting. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and lighten the strawberries tops. Highlight the grapes a little. Take a little more off of this pear. It just helps to have a lighter background. I can open it up and you see with the fresh section it takes nearly all of the antiquing off, which is okay on some of the pieces. As a general rule of thumb, any place that you're going to want to have highlighted and any place that you're working a fairly light color, you can you'll get more depth by removing more of your base antiquing. In this case, I used our S18 brown. You can feel free to antique with any color really, or some choose to not antique at all. Highlighting the grapes. Get the lemon red light. You'll see that I am holding on to the piece with a piece of the paper towel. You'll want to get in that habit so that you're not transferring the paint once you've finished an area. You don't want to have to go back and fix it too much, too often. You will, it's just the nature of the beast, but so that's how it'll look once you've lightened it using the antiquing solution. Now, okay, I've loaded the palette with some yellow color. This will be, the banana is golden yellow. I'm going to pick up just a little bit of color on my brush. Brush it on. When we're applying our color, we apply it away from the item next to it. Pull your color away from the item next to it. Now I still have a little bit of oil on this piece, on the banana, where I'm looking right now, from when I antiqued it. Not a lot, but just enough to keep this yellow nice and open. Now I'm spreading it out. Just takes a little bit. I just loaded a couple bristles up front with the color, pulling away from the item next to it. I'm going to tuck the color down into behind the strawberry there. Just tuck it in. You don't want to work with real runny paint. You want to have extreme control. Just a couple bristles. Okay. Make sure that I reach. And now the bananas, I will work one at a time. Always when we're wiping back our color, when we're exposing the detail, when we are blending, you're always going to fold your cloth into a nice comfortable size for your hand to use, a comfortable size to fit into the area in which you're working, and you don't want any wrinkles. Wrinkles in your wipe back material will result in wrinkles on your wear, on your finished piece, and you don't want that. So we're going to pat to make sure that all of the oil is absorbed. Now we're going to give it a wipe to highlight again, just as I did when I was applying the color. I'm wiping away from the item next to it, go in between. I'm just doing a very light pat to set the color, patting, and then a gentle wipe to highlight. Leave that color back along the edge, pat it in, and move on to your next banana. Okay, I have all the color on my bananas. Work on highlighting, removing any of the excess paint. If you painted it on too heavy, be sure and remember to pat it to set the color. Now I've blobbed on a little bit of the golden yellow to the cherry. I'm not going to worry about that because each time we come up with a new color, we erase or replace the color that was beneath it. I'm going to sound like a TV commercial saying that, but it's just really an important fact to remember when using the Fashion Hues oil-based translucent stains. You have that ability to replace color with new color. That stands true in a brush, that stands true on your wear as well. Pulling color away from the item next to it. Okay. All right, now, actually the bananas are not completed, but they're completed at this stage. Next color on will be a color for the peaches. The peaches. Now, I've made a mess while I was working on highlighting. So what I'm going to do, my same white back cloth that I originally antiqued with, I can even this out very simply by picking up my soiled cloth. We do not throw away our soiled cloth or our craft sticks that we are dipping the color out of the bottles with. You would never want to dump the color into your palette. It would make a mess of your bottles. Can't say that I haven't done it before, but you're not supposed to do that. You'll be much happier with your opening your drawer without doing that. Okay, my next color, which I am going to just add into the same brush that I just used. I'm going to add in golden yellow. The golden yellow is going to be for my peach. What are we doing here? You're adding color, pulling away from the item next to it. I want to tuck the color in. So important remembering to pull away from the item next to it. It's going to incorporate some of our S18 brown that was left down in the crevices. It's going to incorporate that and help to intensify the shadow behind the item that we're painting. Now I've got my banana color. I've got my banana color on the cloth, and I like utilizing my materials, reduce, reuse, and recycle. So what I'm going to do here is just get a clean section of cloth. I'm going to pat to set the color and wipe to highlight. Now this color has been out in my palette for a few minutes, and it's a older color. It's had a chance to set up, and it's getting very, very close to needing, the way it's sticky and pulling a little bit. That may indicate that it's time for me to add just a drop of blending media. We'll experiment on the other peach to be sure. Wiping it, I want to go ahead and leave that great darker shade, darker tone behind it. And I'm going to, okay, peach wiped, peach bottom coat, bottom application. I'm going to, there's actually already blending media in my palette from when we were using the brown. I'm going to pick up just a tiny bit of color and a tiny bit of blending media. And let's see what happens, what the results are from adding just a tiny bit of blending media to our color. Now, Fashion Hues is an oil-based product. Oils are fabulous to work with in that you keep the paint stays open for quite some time while you're working with it. You'd be in big trouble using some medium, decorating medium, if you started and stopped and went and answered the phone and so on and so forth. But anyway, this stays open for a long time and it makes it very user-friendly to work with in that regard. It's a little bit messy to work with, but the beauty that's resulted from it is absolutely worth all of that. Now I'm patting and I'm seeing that was a pretty good educated guess. It was ready for some blending media because it has just wiped back so smoothly and beautifully at this point. We'll look at the two, we'll compare the two peaches. Of course, their nature and everything is different, but there's the, and the other's a little darker, but it's okay. Just wipes back easier that way. Our last yellow will be our lemon yellow. So today I am most fortunate in that I'm breaking in some new brushes. Very exciting product from the Zem line. The Zembellis family is back in paint brushes, and this is a line that I've been having fun using. 16 different dry brushes. It's always fun to open a new pack of brushes. And of course, when you're opening your dry brush, you want to make sure, and you don't want to do this over my piece, but when opening a new brush, you want to make sure and break the sizing. We'll do it on a larger brush. Do that, when you're using a new brush, you'll want to make sure and break the sizing. To do that, we take and flip it. There'll be some loose trimmings come out. That's just how it goes. Show you with another one. Here's a beautiful one. Here's a beautiful round. I'm going to thumb and finger, snap it, thumbnail, just kind of do a little fanning, just do a fanning motion with the thumbnail. And there you have it, sizing broken. The fact that I have a multitude of brushes to work with makes it very nice. I could erase the color that is in this brush simply by picking up some of the new color, working it into a cloth, and the color has been replaced. You can do that. It's okay to do that. The paper that I'm working with, by the way, underneath here, the paper that I'm working with is, the white paper is freezer paper. I like the matte side for base coating. Once the base coating process is finished, I flip it and use the shiny side. Working with the shiny side enables you to test new colors. They're white, and when we get to a process we call rouging, you'll see that it's invaluable as a tool to work your paint into your cloth. Okay, S11 yellow on. I'm going to get myself a new little section of cloth. Okay, we are going to pat to set the color. And wipe to highlight. There we go. If I want it even lighter or highlighted further with the light, I would just come back and rub it back a little bit. On to the next lemon. Okay, let's move on to the pears. For the pear, I'm using S26A lime green. I'm using a number 6 flat dry brush. And a little bit of paint in my brush, a little bit goes a long way. I like to place it down on the subject that I'm decorating and work it out as a palette. Just kind of work that center, and that way I'm not dripping into the item next to it. You see that I'm pulling the color away from, in this instance, the cherries and the cantaloupe. I just keep reloading from the remainder of my piece. A very, very, very small amount of paint goes a very long way with this product. Okay. The more color you spread out, the more you spread the color out, the less you have to wipe back. And you just absolutely maintain so much better control. Okay, I've got my lime green on. Remember, we've got to hold on to the piece with a cloth in our hand so we don't transfer color. Now I'm going to fold my white back cloth into a comfortable pad. In a nice usable size. I'm going to pat. Patting sets the pigment and absorbs the excess oil. Gently tapping, you can feel yourself pushing the color in, setting it, controlling it. You have so much control over the intensity of color and tone with working with the Fashion Hues. A very, very user-friendly product once you get them down. Once you get them down pat, you'll want to do all your pieces in it. Okay. Now I've set my color. I'm going to give a little bit of a highlight here and wipe it back. And there's the beginning of my pear. Now for the tops of the strawberries, I'd like to have them extra light. So I'm going to get just a drop of the antiquing solution, which, if you'll remember, will help us to lighten. It would actually wipe the paint all the way down to base coat if you wanted it to, which of course we don't, but as you'll see, it's getting rid of just about all of our antiquing from the top of the strawberry. And it's coming off the leaves too, and that's okay. Be real careful next to my lemon. Okay, we're going to do this with all of our strawberries. Getting that top section cleared off. Now, to give the appearance of having an unripe section at the top of the strawberries, what we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit, a very, very, very small amount. I'm using actually a 0 round dry brush for this project, for this part of the project, and we're going to take a tiny, tiny bit of the lime green and pick up the S10 white translucent. As you see, I just use a very, very, very small amount of the green. That's going to help us to get the unripe section of the berry. I'm actually testing to see if this is exactly, when you mix a color, you want to test it to see how it's going to look. And I'm happy with that color. So what we're going to do, I'm going to put the color right up next to the leaf. If you get a little on the leaf, that's okay, because each time we come up with a new color, we can erase the color that we boo-booed with or that we smeared onto the next section. Now I've applied my color. Pat. Okay, so that was an experiment. I don't like the way that it turned out. So I am going to pick up the brush that I antiqued the whole piece with. I'm going to re-antique. And that, my friends, is how we erase a color when we've experimented and don't like the way it turns out. I did that on purpose, you know, so I could show you how it's done. This is what we're going to do. We need a tiny bit more of the green, and I believe we need some yellow. I get a lot of times I'll get my color stop. Oftentimes I will look at Google Images to reference color and shading and how something looks. In fact, for this fruit piece, I did just that. And I did see a very fun version of the strawberry with this great color. This is a combination of S10 white, S26A lime green. It also has just a touch of S11 yellow. Now I'm mixing all that in. I want to make sure when I'm applying, I want to tuck it under. If it gets on the leaves, that's not a problem. Do the whole section at a time. You want to make sure and mix enough paint to do the entire area that you're wanting to put this highlight on. Okay. Now what we're going to do, fold the pad into a nice small flat surface. I have folded it. I'm going to pat to set the color, set the pigment, absorb the oil, and gently wipe to highlight. You'll see why you just want a tiny bit of yellow, because it is a very, very strong color. Okay, there we have our little unripe section of a helpful tip when you're working with fashion hues to make your paint cleanup super simple and to keep your colors from running together, I like to simply place foil on my palette and squeeze it down before I tighten it underneath, making sure that all of my wells are formed, keep the paint from running together. When you do this, it's not only making it super simple to clean up, but in the event that you have to walk away from your color, if you need a second palette, which is the case with our colors, we're using several different colors, and so you could actually just remove the palette and have it separated. It'll maintain its shape by using the foil. Okay, to finish our strawberries, we'll want to always shake your paint before opening the jar. I love the little craft sticks available, gosh, all over the place. Walmart usually has very good prices on them. You never want to pour your paint out. The stick will do beautifully both in stirring your paint and transferring your paint onto the palette. Make sure and put your lid back on real tight and you're ready to go. Now, with some of the weaker colors, red being one of them, I like to use a different style of a brush. This brush is actually a combination of synthetic and red sable, so nylon and red sable. The reason I like working with that, if you apply your oil-based translucent stains with strictly Taklon brushes, you'll find that the ends will curl. The nylon, the Taklon, does not like being worked in oil. So really try to stay natural with your bristles when you're working with the Fashion Hues translucent stains. You'll see that I'm applying the red, I'm spreading it out. Red is not really a color that you're going to want to wipe back very much. You're really going to maintain your control in the application. You're going to, I don't want, it's not wet brushing on, you're just kind of gliding it on. Now here, okay, what we're doing here, we're going to blend with a faint fan, blend the red into the unripe section of the strawberry. Nice and light application, pull it around the edge. Now I'm not going to do much of anything more than pat gently the red. I didn't leave any oil in the background. I'm going to just pat gently along the top rim. Where our little unripe section of the strawberry meets the berry. Okay, continue on with S15 red for the strawberries. Okay, the strawberry color has been applied, the red. S15 red has been applied to the strawberries. It's been applied with a beautiful combination brush. This is a Royal brush, soft grip. The series is 3020. It's a combination of a Taklon and red sable, which makes it very user-friendly for applying paint that we're not really going to wipe back. I like using a bristle brush for covering highly textured areas, but when we're working with a color like the red that we're just basically going to put on and spread out, rather than trying to wipe back as we did with our other colors. You'll see I'm just patting it gently and just at where the ripe strawberry meets the unripe, I just gently tap that together to eliminate the start-stop line and to blend those colors. Strawberry is completed. The next item we're going to work on is our cantaloupe. I poured a small amount of S23 Mediterranean on my palette, and as we have done when applying the paints before, be sure to pull the color away from the item next to it. The further we get into the piece, the more important this step in procedure is, that you wipe it away from the item next to it. I'm going to go back and spread this out. Again, the more you spread it out, the less you have to wipe back, the less paint that you're going to use, the less likelihood of running into another piece, running into another section on your piece. You see that I'm spreading it out. I love using a dry brush. We refer to them as dry brush, hog bristle. Another natural hair, something that we use for dry brushing, is also fabulous, fabulous for working with the Fashion Hues translucent stains. Dry brushes assist us in pushing the color into the crevices to really help identify the detail. Once the entire section of cantaloupe has been covered with color, and I'm satisfied that it's spread out completely, we then fold a section of our shop towel or paper or t-shirt material, whatever you're working with, and now patting it to set the color, absorb the oil, just really set that pigment. Leave the color around the edges. It makes for beautiful natural shadows. Okay. Now I know that I want to have this just a little lighter than this, so all I have to do is open it up, get a clean section of cloth, keeping with the same color. You do not throw away your cloths while you're working with them. You're not going to throw away until the entire piece has been completed. And I'll show you there's a reason for that. We incorporate them into our decorating process. First step. The next step in the working with the cantaloupe, we're going to do a process called rouging. Rouging is something that I do frequently. It is something that helps to highlight color, or in this case, I'm going to actually completely change the color. I picked up a little bit of my Sunset, S41 Sunset Translucent. Now I'm going to use this shiny side up of my freezer paper, work the color in to the cloth. What this has done, the shiny portion, shiny side up, will push the oil and pigment up into my shop towel. And what this enables me to do is rub the color on rather than brushing it on. When we brush the color on, it will go down into the crevices. This, I suppose, in a very slight way. This could be similar to a dry brush. The concept is there anyway, like a dry brushing, where we're just rubbing the color on. You'll see, just rubbing the color on, not dipping it in, not pressing it so hard that it goes into the crevices. Oh, got a boo-boo, which is perfect. Show you how to get out of that. When I was rouging my color on, I accidentally put color onto my pear. So what I'm going to do here is find the same cloth that I used earlier with the same lime green, and I'm just going to take a fresh Q-tip, gently wipe the color away and taking that color off. I'm going to go ahead with my brush that is already loaded with the lime green, give it just a tad more lime green. Reapply. I've just erased the sunset color that was accidentally placed on the pear. Now, I'm going to highlight the sunset with the color that we've already used today on the banana. I'm going to give it a little bit of a highlight from our bananas, the same color as the bananas, which is golden yellow. Now I'm going to rouge this into my cloth as well. I'm going to work it into my cloth so that I may rouge it onto the, this was also the soiled cloth that I already used for my banana. So I'm doing a nice feather light touch. The coloring of this melon came from a picture I found on Google Images, which I love to reference. No matter what particular item I'm decorating, I love to get ideas from Google Images on colors. Okay, now that we've rouged the golden yellow onto the surface, not a lot, we didn't take a lot of the color, we just gave it a hue. And now I'm going to take and dry brush a little bit of the lime green. Just work it into my cloth, and I'm going to actually dry brush a little bit of that lime green along the crevice, giving it a very fun unripe section. No. I'm going to dry brush a little bit of the lime green. I'm using the same brush, which is a number 6 flat, that I used to apply the same color of the lime green to the pears. I'm using that now. I'll just take a fresh section of cloth. I call it cloth. It's actually white back material, which we're using in this case shop towel. Give it a little swipe. There we have cantaloupe. Next, the black cherries will be done using the nice brush combination, red sable and Taklon. It's a Royal Soft Grip series. Anyway, a cast on. I'm going to show you a simple way to change color in a brush. First of all, I'm going to wipe as much out of the red as I possibly can. This is the same brush that I used for my strawberries, and I choose now to use it for the black cherries. Now, the reason that I want to use a softer brush is so that I don't leave brush stroke mark in this, because it does have such a smooth surface. And actually black currant, S47 black currant, is a color that if you wipe it way back, it'll be too pastel for what we choose to have for our berries. So I've just loaded it once. I wiped the color out. I loaded it once into my brush, wipe it out, and actually that now has the side of the paper is a good place to test. It's also a great place for rouging your color in, and to keep a tidier workspace and to help prevent from smearing paint. You can take a baby wipe every once in a while and wipe it up. Anyway, changed colors. We're using black currant on the black cherries, and of course, when applying, use just a small amount of the color. Just tip in and pick up a very, very small amount of the color. Wipe away from the item next to it without leaving a puddle of color. Oops. This black cherry actually had a little bit of the lime green, but remembering that each time you come up with a new color, you replace the color that was beneath it, we're able to correct that little problem. I'm going to make sure to pull all the color out from down in the crevices. You want color there, but absolutely no oil. Oil will never ever dry. It may become a little difficult to work with, but if you leave oil down in the crevices, it will remain open even after you have spray sealed it. So it's just real important that we have the piece nice and oil free when we spray. And look, I made another boo-boo just so you can see how to fix it. We simply take a clean section of cloth and just gently erase the color, lift it, and if we need to replace any of the color that I removed, I'll get golden yellow, pick up my cloth I use for the golden yellow. I have it right here. Just kind of pat the color back on it. There we go, fixed banana. Now for the black cherries. We're not going to wipe this color. Wiping it would not leave enough color on. We're just going to pat. Continue to pat to set that color. Okay. Now, with most of the color removed from the brush, go around and pull it up. This is creating a nice natural shadow. It's making sure that there's no oils. It's smoothing out the area that we just patted back, getting rid of any marks or indentations that may have been left. And it's also highlighting. So the brush was dry. I'm now using the brush almost like a mop, but also it's blending as well. The nice soft combination brushes do a great job at blending. For the unripe section of the apple, we're going to rouge a color combination. Pick up a little bit of our yellow, S11 yellow, and mix it in with some of the lime green, and we will create a little unripe spot on the apple. If it doesn't seem to be rouging on smoothly, simply pick up a tiny drop of blending media, and that will help the process along. Now in the apple, I've chosen to go with maroon, S24 maroon, and as with any of the red family, I'm using the combination brush, pulling color carefully away from the item next to it. We're really spreading this out. We don't want to have to go back and wipe anything back of this maroon. We're going to do everything with the brush. The brush will serve as not only the application device, but the removal as well. You've got to work fairly fast with the reds. Once they dry, they don't like to be messed with too much. It's hard to get them even again. Most of the colors are very forgiving, but the reds are just a little delicate. And actually red tones in most mediums that you work with are real sensitive in one way or another. So as you see, I'm pulling the color away from the item next to it. Spreading the color out as far as it'll go without leaving brush marks, stroke marks. This is a Filbert, a number 10 soft grip combination brush, combination red sable and Taklon. Love the way it works. The bristles don't roll the way that they would if we were using a straight Taklon brush. Once you've covered the apple with your maroon, leaving no oil behind, you'll now do this random little blend. Just bring the color, just a very feather-light touch. Now for the grapes, I've placed some royal purple and some navy in my palette. I'm just going to do a random mix of both. Throughout the process, your piece may start to get a little dry. If so, just add a little blending media to the color that you're working with if it seems not to be spreading on evenly. Add a little more navy to it. I just like blending the colors and having a natural mix of the colors. I'm going to go ahead and with the grapes, simply pat and wipe. There's the grapes. Continue on. Okay, the grapes, the color is on. We're going to take a nice smooth section of toweling, pat, making sure as to leave no oil on the piece, and wipe in one direction to highlight. Now you'll rouge your grapes with a very light amount of blackcurrant. It's real slight. Too much comes off simply. Put on some more color, smooth it out. And there you go, highlighted grapes. This next step, we will go ahead and add our color, add the remainder of our color to the peach or nectarine and the pear. We're going to rouge color on. I'm going to find my soiled cloth that I used for the black currant right there. I'm going to highlight my peach or nectarine with that first. Real random. Rouging is just a means of rubbing the color from the cloth, or in this case, a job paper towel. I think I'll give the pear just a little bit of that same random highlight. Okay, I went from dark. We'll drop down now to the maroon color. Give it a little bit of a rouge here. And the same. Little hits of the color. This one is this sunset. I'm using the color that was the existing cloth. That's why we don't throw away our towel, our white back cloths, whether they be t-shirt material or, and a little bit of my pear. I just think I've overdone it. I want to change it a little bit. I can do that. I'm going to work some color into my cloth. Ooh. I'm going to come over the pear that I wasn't happy with. I could take all of the color off. I'm just going to just a little bit. Kind of tone down the colors. And I'll hit it a couple times with the red. And there we have it. Okay, they're not quite finished, but for the most part, rouging, randomly rouging, gives you your effect for your pear and your peach. Okay, to finish the strawberries off, I've chosen a number 2 round Zim dry brush. Simply, the color is a combination of jade and hunter. Just tip the bristles of my brush into each, and then with one shot, press and lift, and your leaves are automatically highlighted. The color has stayed in the crevices for nice shadows. Get just a little pat, and that's it. That way, that will help you to keep from smearing from one color to the next. The leaves on the apple and pears would just be green. Pat to set the pigment and absorb the oil, and gently wipe to highlight and expose you. The cherry stems, I'm actually using my nice flat dry brush and just dry brushing the color on. There's no need to go on heavy with it. The green is a very, very strong color. And it's going to grab, it's going to leave a nice tint just by dry brushing it on. No oil involved. If you'd like, you can go back, just give it a slight wipe to highlight. You'll finish up by using Mediterranean on the handle, on the stems for the pear and apple and peach. You'll also put the Mediterranean at the tips of the bananas, top and bottom. Use the Mediterranean. See where we've rouged the bananas with the green. And finished your piece on the bottom as well. This piece is completed. Next, we'll spray seal the entire piece with matte spray sealer. You'll want to use a matte because then we can follow up with a brush on gloss. Check and make sure your entire piece is completed and it's just the way you want it, because you can add to the color, but once we spray seal it, you cannot take away. So make sure you've got it all nice and even and you're happy with it. The next step is to spray. Okay, the next and final step in detailing our piece is to add more dimension by selecting items that you know would look great with a natural shine and applying brush on gloss. This is done after you have spray sealed the piece. Anytime you're going to work with a water-based product, you will want to make absolute certain that the translucents have all been sealed. Oil and water don't mix. You will find that if you come, the oil will stain the color if you choose to put water-based product on top of the oil-based product. It just doesn't work. You have much better success applying all water-based product after you've spray sealed. Now with our brush on gloss, we're going to want to have a nice application, not too heavy, it'll run. Actually, what I like to do is I apply 2 or 3 coats. It goes a long, long way. You want to make sure you don't get anxious and let it run. Okay. As we have done throughout the piece, we apply away from the item next to it. No different now. The brush on gloss may have a slight milky appearance at first, but that is not a problem. It dries to a fabulous shine. It's very nice. Nearly every piece that you work on, and actually in most mediums, you have a choice of working with a finish that's either matte or gloss, and various varieties of the same. Utilize that. That's how nature does it. Nature has her mixture of shiny things and matted things. So anyway, I am choosing to gloss leaves, of course the apple, cherries, grapes, leaves on the berries, and all of these leaves. I want to thank you very much for taking the time to learn a little bit about Fashion Hues. And I do hope that you enjoy your